talking to us about how you can use a course, especially an e-course, to help grow your business. I think this is a super valuable conversation. And we recently talked to somebody who specifically focused on how you can use a book to help grow your business. And it feels really, really similar. And I know that was a really popular subject. So really excited to have you here today, Marcio.
Thank you, Don. Thank you for the welcome, the invitation to the Jottful community. I'm happy to be here. Happy to
Awesome.
share everything I know.
Welcome. Well, can you start just by telling us a little bit about Nerd Digital and how you got started with Nerd Digital, what you do there?
Yes. Oh, yes, for sure. So at Nerd Digital, we essentially today we are strictly a coaching company, and we coach course creators. That's it. And
Mhm.
the way I got into this was I've been in the agency world, in the marketing world. Right before creating Nerd Digital, I was working at an agency, super busy,
Yeah.
um, and working with interesting brands like BMW, Western Union, Scotiabank, Bank of Montreal, won some awards. That was really cool. But my mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease.
Mhm.
And at that point, I said, I want to spend as much time as I could with her. So I
Yep.
carved out an exit, gave my resignation, and then I just started freelancing through Nerd Digital. And
Mhm.
eventually, through many pivots, I landed on serving course creators, which we can get into more
Yeah,
later.
it's funny. That's the part that business owners oftentimes yada 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 over, which is the after many pivots part. And that's the part that a lot of business owners are trying to figure out, right? How do I pivot? How do I find the thing that's going to really work for me? And ultimately you found it through coaching course creators. How did you
Mhm.
discover that?
Yeah, so right, picking up where I left off there, when I left the agency, I took on like any job that I could. I was a
Hmm.
web and graphic designer by trade.
Yep.
I have a business degree, and so the first thing I could grab, I'm like, I just need some revenue. I started doing websites. After that, I
Yep.
just started everything that I earned pretty much that I could. I just invested in more training. So I took SEO training, email training, email marketing training, copywriting training, advertising training. So everything that I could, I just transformed that into a new contract for somebody, for a new website for somebody, a new SEO, whatever.
Yep.
And through that, I got known for doing SEO really well. And I got
Mm.
connected with this company called Kettle and Fire. They're a hot startup, not a startup anymore, but they sell bone broths and soups. They're a market leader in the bone broth and soups industry. And you wouldn't think it, but they're super well organized, and they run their growth sprints like a startup. They
Mm.
run their product like a startup. I learned a lot from them. And through that network, I got introduced to a course creator. Just happened. This was not even 2 years ago. And working with them, with a course creator, was so exciting, was so rewarding, because their business is this small compared to these other brands, like these franchises and these um,
Hmm.
CPG brands. They're making hundreds of millions of dollars, whereas this guy is not even making a million yet. And the impact that I was able to have when I came in was fantastic, right? So
Yeah.
he went from doing 5-figure launches to doing 6-figure launches after within 6 months of working together with us.
Hmm.
So that's what was really, it was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Like,
Yeah.
forget these big guys, forget all this stuff. I'm going to take everything I know and learn, but I really want to focus on course creators.
Really? Yeah. So you found that you could just really have a lot of impact with that particular market, huh?
Hmm.
Awesome. So talk to us a little bit about how we as business owners can use a course to help propel our business, or just more generally, what are the benefits of offering a course for our business?
Yes, for sure. So offering a course is really interesting because, especially if you're a service provider, you can use a course to scale both your knowledge and your time.
Mm.
And you can do that with a course, right? So you're able to help more people when you have a course. You're able to earn more because you're no longer trading your time for money.
Right.
You do have to put in the investment to, design the course and design the product itself and work on that, and then work on marketing the course.
Hmm.
But once that's done, if you have a self-serve course that people can take, then it's high leverage. Or even if you have a course that people can take with you live, that's also high leverage, not as much, but usually the value is much greater there.
Yeah. And when you say high leverage, what you're really talking about is you're able to take the same amount of time and generate a lot more income off of that time because you're making an investment in creating a course and marketing a course. But then you have this product. A course is really a type of product, unlike a service, which you sell by the hour. And so you invest that time in creating that product, and now you can start to generate revenue off it for a long time. So that's what you're talking about when you're talking about leverage, right?
Correct. I'm talking about leverage both in your time, but also in the amount of people that you can serve,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
if usually we get into the service-based business to help people and to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And this way, you will help more and you'll make
Yep.
more money. So it's a no-brainer.
Do you think that is becoming saturated? There's so many courses out there.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, I talk to course creators every single day, and that's one of the main worries that every course creator out there has. How do I make my course stand out? Which is the real
Yeah.
question. If you think about brands like in other commoditized industries, like the shoe industry, you think about Nike. Um, they're a commoditized product,
Mm-hmm.
but people pay a premium for their runners, right? You
Mm-hmm.
have $200 sneakers that people buy. They'll line up for days to grab a pair of new Jordans. So it's not really, the question isn't so much as is the market saturated? It's more of how can I make my product stand out? That's the big question.
Uh-huh. So like in any commodity based market, it's all about how can you make your product stand out? How can you make your brand stand out?
Hmm.
Are there certain kinds of subjects that just lend themselves better to courses? Have you noticed that? I mean, are there businesses for whom a course doesn't make any sense, and are there businesses for whom a course makes a ton of sense?
That's a good question. I haven't yet come across anything specific that I think doesn't work in a course. But I would say that there are usually just three buckets of a course
Mm-hmm.
that you can create a course in. It's health, right? So improve your health, improve
Mm-hmm.
your wealth, or improve your relationships. Usually courses fall into one of those three buckets. And so if
Mm-hmm.
you're a service provider, whatever you're selling, for example, with Jottful, if you came to Jottful, they created a website for you for your massage service or for your coaching service, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You could probably create a course around it. The most important thing is to make sure that you're creating a course that's of interest to a specific person and not just of interest to you,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think one thing we need to talk about when we were talking about the benefits of courses is not only can you earn revenue off of the course, but you can use the course to generate more revenue for your business. Is that something that you see very often, or you see most people trying to earn revenue off of their course?
The people that I've worked with so far, actually it's split. One guy, he's that's his sole focus is to earn money through the course.
Mm-hmm.
He is expanding into some other services, but I'd say, still, 90+% of all his revenue is coming through courses. The
Mm-hmm.
other company, Capital Allocators, they they're a very interesting company because they actually had a podcast, a book, and these other financial products that they would sell.
Mm-hmm.
And they just kind of had this idea, it's like, wait, should we have a course? We see these people doing courses, and we kind of had this idea. They came to me and they said they kind of had it sketched on the back of a napkin, let's say, and we said, yeah, I think you have a course there. And 3 or 4 months later, they had done over six figures with their launch. So it's
Mm.
depending on what the size of your company, the way of your company, you could be sitting on six figures and not know it. You know,
Right.
and all we did was kind of unlock that. We just took some of the ideas, we packaged it, we put it in front of the right people, we marketed it, and then um, it was a very successful launch.
So earlier when we were talking about books in another time, another guest, one of the things that we talked about is the fact that the book can really lend credibility to you as an expert or as an authority in what it is that you do, and in that way the book can help you sell more of your services. So for
Mhm.
example, you have a book, the book naturally is going to lead to more speaking opportunities for you. You can leverage those speaking opportunities to sell more services. Do you see that as well? Do you see people using a course kind of as a calling card or a way to develop credibility the way you would with a book, or is it is it different? Is it mostly about revenue?
I'd say it's actually quite similar. Now
Okay.
that you say it that way, I think it is. I have seen this, and one place that you can see this is true is if you look at other podcasts
Mm-hmm.
and you look at the other people that go on the podcast, they usually have a course.
Mm-hmm.
right? And so
Sure.
if you think about the podcast host, well, why are they hosting them? They're hosting them because they have this unique knowledge that they can share, and they can prove it with the course,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So I think your idea there, I think you're true. I think you're right that creating a course actually does enhance your credibility in the marketplace. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about just sort of the mechanics of the course. How long do they typically need to be? Are most people producing, e-courses, or are some people doing, real time, for example, over Zoom or even in classroom courses? What are you seeing most frequently and what seems to be working?
Yeah. So when it comes to course length, there's no hard and fast rule.
Mm-hmm.
I think really the maximum that you want to strive for is to make the course as short as it possibly can be,
Yeah.
so that you deliver as much value in each module, in each class, in each talk as possible.
Yeah.
If you can deliver the same amount of transformation in a day versus a month, do it in a day,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you might think, for example, well, so that's like the first part of your question.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the second part was, do I see more e-courses versus live?
Right.
What I've been working on mostly lately is on live courses, and I've been coaching a lot of people that have live
Fascinating.
courses. Yeah, so what we call cohort-based courses.
Uh-huh.
And so these courses usually follow a typical product launch formula type of launch. But then when the course goes live, you have once or twice a week, you have a call with the teacher or with the instructors or with the group, however the course is structured.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll learn live with a group of other people, right? And so
Yeah.
I've seen mixtures of both, but all of the courses that I've worked on so far and talked to people are people interested in creating live courses.
Is that because that having those peers in the cohort with you, or having people going through the class with you, helps to motivate you, that you learn from each other? Is there like real value in having those people together, as opposed to letting people do sort of their own, do it on their own time through an e-course?
Yeah, so that's a very important question. And the question behind that question is really, what is let's say, the transformation or the value that the person gets from the course?
Mm-hmm.
Because the idea is that we buy a course so that we can go from here to there, right? There
Mm-hmm.
has to be some kind of like reason why we're taking the course.
Yeah.
And what I've read, I don't have the statistic to point you specifically to a source, but what I've heard and read about is that something like only 10% or around 10 to 15% of people that buy e-courses finish them and implement them, right?
Yeah.
Which means that almost nobody does.
Right.
Whereas on the flip side, when you look at live courses, another statistic that I've heard is that 80+% of people that take a live cohort-based course or something similar to that complete the course, implement the
Mm-hmm.
course, and actually get and fulfill the transformation,
Yeah.
which I believe has a lot to do with the community.
Mm-hmm.
It has to do with I mean, we are creatures, social creatures, and we imitate each other. That's how we learn
Mm-hmm.
everything. We just had a new baby. And it's so interesting to see him now starting to imitate our faces. So, right, he smiles and he's experimenting with his face and things, right? So that's how we learn.
Yeah.
And when you see somebody come on camera, like you, right, every time we come and we see Don, we're seeing how to be a CEO. We're seeing how Don does it. And you communicate back to us like, okay, this is how I could do it. This is how I should talk. This is what the ideas. That's
Mm-hmm.
just how we learn. And the fact that it's live, I think it enhances this transparency. It enhances the realness of it, because we live in this such a busy world where everything is edited, and the live part is just like, you just can't replace that authenticness of people, of
Mm-hmm.
being in the classroom with people. So
Yeah.
I think those are the two answers to your question there.
Yeah, but then, fundamentally, if you actually realize that transformation you sought when you went into the course in the first place, then you're more likely to tell others about the course. You're more likely to write a positive review about the course, or become a case study for the course and help market the course, right? So as an instructor, as a course instructor, getting those happy customers, just like in anything, is really beneficial to help you market down the line.
Definitely. And that's actually a bit of a strategy or a tactic that you can use when designing your course, is thinking about, the different steps or modules in your course, let's say, And what are some opportunities that you can tap into the audience, the group of people that are taking the course with you, so that they can expose your course to the outside world?
Mm,
So let's say, for example, people that buy it, they kind of go into this bubble, and it's like this hidden black box of things that are going in there. It's like this little black room, right? Dark room.
right.
Are there opportunities for you to maybe create a tweet and invite people to tweet with you?
Hmm.
Is there an activity that you can say, okay, look, as part of this exercise of putting yourself out there, exercise one is to actually put yourself out there now. So you do this, go to Twitter, use this hashtag, and I want you to write this,
Hmm.
right? So in your own words, do this. I've seen this done really well with the people from Ship 30 for 30, for example, or Ship 30. Um, that's the name of a course. The guys from Rite of Passage, they do a little bit of this as well, and also Tweet 100. So those are some examples you can see on Twitter of course creators that are leveraging their audience to turn their audience into the marketing engine for the course.
Yeah. Yeah. In software, we call that product-led growth. That's awesome. So talk to us a little bit about how you get started with a course. I know you've talked about this concept of a transformation. I know that that's pretty essential in how to get started with a course, but can you talk us through sort of the strategic steps you go through to create a course?
So if you don't have a course yet, the first thing that you need to do is you need to download your brain, right? So you need to figure out, for example, because ideally you want to start from a position of strength. You want to start from a position where you actually have something of value to offer. And a way to do this is to think about, if you're in a service, if you're a service provider, what is the group of people that you've helped in the past, either directly or in a group setting, get
Hmm.
a real transformation? What was that transformation? Was it of value? Do you remember these people's eyes lighting up?
Hmm.
And if so, let's get specific and concrete with what that transformation was. And then we'll do what I call downloading your brain, which is breaking down each thing that this person needed to do to go from where you took them. Let's say they were sitting on their couch and they were binging on TV and Cheetos to
Yeah.
uh, a bikini body.
Yep.
What did you do to this person to get them to do that? Like, what did you say? What words did you use? What day of the week? What did they eat? What did you do to their kitchen, into the fridge? Like all of those steps, download your brain and document all those steps, even if it's like 1,000 steps. And then um, start to trim this down into something that is like really essential to get the person from point A to point B. That's
Hmm.
the basic first part that you need to figure out.
Yep. I'm hearing so much in here, that Don Miller book, Story Brand, where he talks about how you as the business owner or you as the business are the mentor. And your job is to help the customer go from point A to point B, or what you're describing as a transformation, or what it is that they need to accomplish. He also talks about the fact that there are obstacles in the way that you have to steer them past as the mentor. Do you do that also for course creation? Do you think about those obstacles?
Yes, for sure. So that's something that we address. Like in our program, we go through 3 phases, right? So there's a product, the
Mhm.
funnel, and the launch. And in the first phase, we talk about the product. That's one of the key things that we want to address are the obstacles. The obstacles, so after you do this brain download, what you'll find is you've addressed a lot of these obstacles, but there can still be a little more meat on the bones, right?
Mhm.
One way that what thing you can do, for example, is you can go to Amazon. Let's say, for example, your topic is on building a website, right?
Yep.
So if you're trying to build a website, you want to teach a course on building a website. Well, you could go to Amazon.com or Quora, for example, and look at some common questions around building a website. You could look at a popular book on building a website and look at what are the negative reviews of those books, because that'll indicate
Mm.
what did they leave out of that book that you could include
Yes.
in your course, and
Smart.
is that important,
Yeah.
right? So there's a little bit in terms of refining the product in that way, in terms of the obstacles. And once you get clear on these obstacles, another thing that you can do is you can identify some of the obstacles that, not necessarily obstacles, but this is like a kind of like a pro tip. It's what is the effort and sacrifice that people have to do to get the transformation.
Mhm.
So it's not exactly an obstacle, but it's like, what do they have to put in? Like, what do they have to give up to get that?
Mhm.
So for example, if you're building a website, if we use this case, right? So how to build a website in 90 days without having to hire an agency and pay thousands of dollars, or, spend or take a course on becoming a fine graphic artist at a master's degree or something like that.
Right.
So
Right.
that would be the effort and sacrifice that the person
Uh-huh.
would need to give up to get to
Yeah. There's also
professionally.
sort of a flip side of the effort and sacrifice where sometimes putting it out there will entice the right kind of student, if we want to use that, a learner for your course. I know personally, when I see that something requires a lot of effort from me, I'm actually more inclined to want to do it. Like I think that there's a kind of learner who says, this is going to be serious. I'm not going to be wasting my time and money on a course that isn't going to get me somewhere. They're requiring this of me in order for me to even take the course, and they're letting me know ahead of time.
Yeah, so that's a very interesting point, and we get into that a little bit in the product phase as well when we get
Hmm.
more clear on your avatar. And when we talk about your avatar, usually in any market that you're going to be in, you end up seeing, I'm curious if you've seen this, you end up seeing like four segments of your market.
Interesting.
If we talk about the web design market, there's usually going to be at the very bottom, at the top, let's say the top is like um, a company that has a website, has a web developer, has a web designer, has a copywriter, has everything they need to create, sustain, build, do everything for their website. Then
Hmm.
at the very bottom, you have this individual that has no idea what the heck they're doing, and they just want to get a page on the internet.
Yeah,
A step,
actually at Jottful, we have terms for those segments. The first segment you talked about, we call performance, and the last segment you talked about, we call presence. People who just need
right?
online presence. Yep.
And so then the second one would probably be somebody that already has a website, has already built one in the past, but they kind of like don't want to go through the effort of doing it again.
Hmm.
Maybe they want to tweak their website because they're shifting their services a little bit, and they know about the headaches that they don't want. So they're like, okay, get me in.
Hmm.
And then the third is kind of like a mix in between these. I don't know exactly what it'd be for your market, but usually what happens is once you're able to identify those, you can get rid of the fourth and the first bucket of the first segment. Reason being is the first one, the bottom one, they don't have money and they don't have
Hmm.
enough skin in the game or pressure to really make this an important thing that they're going to invest in. It's kind
Hmm.
of like, oh yeah, I'd like to have a website so that I could keep track of my plants growing, or I'd like to have a website for my hobby.
Yep.
It's not really essential. And
Hmm.
for the very top, for performance, they probably don't need your help as well because they have everything. They don't want to learn to take, they don't want to take a course. They just want to pay to have somebody do it.
Yep.
Like they're like, tick it off my list, get it out of my way. I don't want to look at it. I
Yep.
want it done. So usually when you're creating a course, you're focusing on the two middle parts.
Hmm. Hmm. That's fascinating. I love that. So, can you talk to us a little bit about after the product, then you move into the funnel stage? Talk to us about what you mean by a funnel, because by the way, I'm seeing just incredible parallels between starting a business and starting a course.
Mhm.
Definitely, there's tons of parallels here. So, what do you mean by a funnel specific to a course? And then what do you recommend?
So a funnel, really, what I mean is you leveraging the internet and technology to
Mhm.
transform visitors and people that don't know about you into buyers.
Right.
And to do that, we need to bring them to your website. We need to convert them into some kind of through a lead magnet. Then you nurture them with your email until they're ready to buy your course.
Hmm.
Essentially, that's the most basic way that I would describe having a funnel.
Hmm.
And um, there are tons of ways to do this, right? I mean, I don't know if Jottful builds funnels. I'm sure you could figure out a way to do it with the Jottful technology, but there are
Hmm.
tons of other tools out there that you can build a funnel. And
Yeah.
the parallel with the business, you're exactly right. Like I said to you before, RadReads is one of our clients. You can go to radreads.co to check out their course and their content. They essentially 90% plus of all the revenue comes from courses, and so the course could simply be the service for your
Hmm.
business, right?
Hmm.
And so it is essentially very similar to building an online business is building a funnel with the course.
Do you see many people doubling up on these things? Maybe they have a business plus a course plus a book, or two of the three.
It depends on what phase you are.
Hmm.
If you're making, a million plus a year, I think, yeah, it makes sense to start diversifying the ways that you're earning revenue. If you're
Hmm.
under a million, then there's still so much opportunity. If your course really does solve a real problem, there's probably still more opportunity for you to expose your course to more people, and probably to charge more, or to get people to buy the course more often, right? Or to buy something ancillary to the course, so that you increase the customer lifetime value. Because those are really just the three ways for you to grow your business.
Right. Okay. Last question. Can you give us some examples of things you've seen work really well, or things that you've seen really fail?
When it comes to creating or launching a course?
Either, because it sounds like there's really the creation piece and then there's the launch piece, right? So in either bucket.
So we just ran a launch a week ago. And one thing that worked really well for us was a summit. One key metric, probably the most important metric that you're going to want to keep your eye on, and you should write this down, when you're running a launch of a course, is what we call your launch list. And your launch list is essentially all of the people that raise their hand and say, yes, I'm interested in this course. And they do that by either going to a landing page that says, course X exists, this is the offer for the course is closed, signups are closed, click here to be notified. Some kind of variation of that. It can be, you can do that through email, so people are already subscribed and you send them a heads up that the course is coming and they click. That would indicate someone that you want to segment to say, okay, this person seems interested in my launch list. So building your launch list is like this key metric. Okay, so one thing that really helped us to build our launch list was a summit. And a summit was cool because it was high leverage, it was not really high effort, it was low cost, and it generated a ton of emails for us. Like, it generated several thousand emails, which was something like, I'd say it was 25% more effective than what we were already doing. Like, it was, it bumps our email growth by 25% over the same period, which is,
and
for us, was significant.
When you say you had a summit, do you mean that you hosted an online event, invited a bunch of thought leaders or experts or speakers to come?
Exactly. It was just a 3-day summit, and it's we spoke about productivity, and people showed up on those 3 days, and we had 2 or 3 slots, depending. Like, it was like a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And we had some days we had like 2 or 3 speakers back to back. Some days we just had 2. And it was pretty straightforward, but the guests were awesome. We had James Clear on the show. We had Dan Runcie. We had Rachel Rogers. So it's a lot of really great people to chat with us. And yeah, it was great. That was something that's really effective.
Yeah. And so that helps you build your mailing list, which you then use to sell your course.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's a key indicator, because what's cool is most of the things, for example, the sales and the number of people that buy the course, those are lagging indicators, meaning that you're only going to know after the fact, after you launch and close the cart. But it'd be great if you could have some kind of number before that to tell you, okay, how much am I going to make before I even launch? Your launch list size is that indicator. It's like the thing that you can look at to say, okay, look, I have 1,000 people in here. If we usually convert about 5% here and 10% there, and a certain percent open our emails, then in our sales page usually converts between 2-3%. This is what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the reason why publishers always want to know, how many followers do you have on Twitter? How many followers do you have on Instagram, and so forth, because it gives them some insight into how well the book's gonna sell.
Cool, interesting. That makes a lot of sense for the book market. Yeah, it's aligned as well with the course launch.
Yeah. Well, Marcio, we are very grateful. This was super, super valuable and so interesting. Thank you so much for joining us today from Nerd Digital. We're really happy to have you.
Well, that's a wrap. If you enjoyed this episode of Marketing Made Easy, please subscribe to Jottful's YouTube channel. That's JOTTFUL. That way, you'll never miss an episode. We'll meet you on the next one.